Thanks for plugging in. Today we're talking excellence with TE Connectivity and the interconnect specialists from TTI IP&E. It's the news, information, and detail you need to know to stay informed about the latest innovations in all types of electronics connectivity. And now, here's your host, TTI's Scott Stemley.
Thanks, Jim, and hello, everybody. It's great to have you tuning in to our next series of Talking Excellence with TE and TTI. In this episode, we're happy to welcome back TE Connectivity Senior Manager, R&D, Product Development Engineering, Josh Poterjoy. Thanks for being with us again today, Josh.
Hey, thanks, Scott. Good to be back.
So our topic in this episode is understanding the right sealing solutions for the application environment. So first question, Josh, sealing is a very broad term and can mean a lot of things. What goes into designing a product for sealing?
Yeah, great question. So I guess start with the first part of, how do we define sealing? And I know we get a lot of requests from our customers. Sometimes it's, we want something splash resistant, waterproof, maybe rain resistant. So many different terms are bounced around. But really, it's important to know that when we talk about sealed connectivity or sealed connectors, we're usually referencing an industry standard like an IP rating or an ingress protection level. Most of our products carry the International Electrotechnical Commission or IEC standard IP for that product. And really, just a little bit of background on that product rating. It's you'll see an IP for ingress protection and then two numbers following that. Those two numbers really tell you the level of protection that product has. So the first numeral is the solid ingress protection, and that goes from 0 to 6, 0 being the least protection, 6 is dust tight. So as you go up that scale, as you can imagine, you get more and more protection. Likewise, on the second number, it's also a scale, but it's from 0 to 9, and that covers liquid ingress. So most cases water, but it could also be any other various liquid depending on your application. Again, 0 is no protection, and then as you get into the higher numbers, you get more and more sealing protection from liquid. In the mid-range, you're talking about more of that jets of water, directional jets. As you get up into the 7 and 8, you're actually talking about submersion, and then 9 being at the top is a little more, let's say, specialized. There we're talking about high pressure water jets. That might be something you're going to see more in an automotive application. But anything that we have that is rated for sealing will have these numbers. And when you see those numbers, that means that that product has been tested against that industry standard for IP rating. So you can rest assured that when you see that, you know what you're getting.
Got it. So those IP rated products do undergo specific testing, along the process within TE.
Well, they actually go through, as I mentioned before, there is an IEC standard. It's 60529 that covers this IP testing. So we adhere to that specific standard for testing. So you know that when you see an IP rating on our product, no matter where it comes from, it's tested to the same standard in one of our labs. So the IP standard is, I think, a really good one. It's industry wide. So what we sell you. If it says an IP, say 56, that's an IP 56, no matter where it's used, it's the same standard.
So what should I look for in a sealed connector?
Yeah, so again, I think it really comes down to understanding what your problems are going to be or what your application is. So when looking for a sealed connector, first, I think you need to understand what you're going to deal with. Are you dealing with liquids? Are you dealing with solids? Or maybe even a combination of both? Then you can start breaking down what your requirements are, because again, it's you can get more protection as you go up the scale, but the cost is going to go up and the complexity is going to go up, both from a part count as well as an assembly. So these more ruggedized sealed connectors, as if you see them in person, you can see there's multiple pieces. Sometimes they take special assembly operations, so it's really important to get the right level of sealing, but you don't want to go over. You don't want to go under either because you don't want to, run into issues in the field. But you want to be in that window where it's going to give you the right amount of protection, but not really overkill on anything that you're looking for. So, with that said, most of our customers will come to us with specific questions about water ingress or liquid ingress. Um, so usually what we'll start with is, really what is your application? Where will the connector be? What service environment are you going to be putting it in? Is it going to be in an enclosed cabinet? Will it be ever exposed to standing water, for instance? Even at that level, it's really important to know the orientation of the connector, for instance, because say if it's in a vertical orientation, maybe it's less prone to water pooling. The water will drain out. So that could be one way to solve your problems. Maybe we can solve it without even using seals. But if you do have some issues where you're going to be in, say, standing water, then we start looking at some more, I say, ruggedized options for the sealing side. And I think that's really important to know just from an upfront conversation when we're talking about connectivity. We want to make sure that we get the right design for your application. And as I said, we do have specialized connectors, whether you're putting these in panels or you're putting these in free hanging assemblies. They do have drain holes built into them. Some of these even have angles. So if they're loaded into a panel, they're at an angle so the water drips away. So these are good solutions for maybe some lower level sealing applications that you may have. As you get into more, say, difficult to seal situations, then we'll have to start adding rubberized interface seals and wire seals to prevent water from ingressing into the components. But again, it really depends on what you're looking for. On the flip side of that, maybe you don't have issues with water, but it's important to understand if you're going to have any dust ingress. So if you're going to be in a dusty environment, it might be dry, but maybe you have a lot of dirt or sand or dust blowing around. Likewise, you need protection from that as well. Dust can be equally as bad as liquid ingress because, again, if dust gets into that connection interface, you can, through vibration and heating and cooling over life, you can see additional wear in the contact interface, and that can cause you all kinds of problems. So again, it's really important to look at the dust solutions as well. And typically when we're looking for operation in dusty environments, we're looking for an IP5 or an IP6. That gives you either a dust proof or a dust tight rating. And that's usually good enough to keep all the debris out of the connection. One thing too, I think when we start talking about what's good enough, we start talking about just either splash proof or moisture proof. One option that we could provide is maybe back covers or or even like a light dust cover, something that snaps over the existing connector. This isn't a traditional seal. It's not going to give you the same protection as some of the higher rated sealing solutions, but it does provide some protection from environmental debris or water just dripping on the connection. So I think in general, those are some of the typical things we'll look for. And again, it's really important going into the conversation. What are you trying to do, or what application environment do you intend to be on throughout the life of the product?
Right, right. Explain the difference, if you will, between the environmental seals, which you've been talking about here, and a hermetic seal.
Yes, good question. So the hermetic seals, I would say in our typical application environments would be epoxies or glues, so like conformal coatings, things like that. So you would have, usually you're trying to protect maybe electronics assemblies, and you want to cover those in something that's a little more protective. You often don't think about the connectivity side of that, but if you do have these board mounted headers on your assembly, and you want to cover the whole thing in epoxy, you got to make sure that you don't fill your board header up with epoxy, or else it's not going to work. Or you don't want to glue your header down to your connector, making it basically non-separable anymore, which really defeats the purpose. So we do offer several different options in that area. So we have PCB headers that are designed to sit on boards with epoxy. They have some standoffs that keep the epoxy from coming up into the header itself. They're sealed all the way around or shrouded to protect from that coating. So those are some good options if you're going to be doing anything with that type of hermetic sealing. We do also offer some overmolding solutions in some of our wire-to-wire connectors and wire-to-board connectors. So that would mean that the terminals are actually molded into the plastic housings. So they are, right, by design sealed from the elements. That does provide some additional protection. We do have some products available like that, and those are usually for, I'd say, some harsher environments. We're looking at some of the much higher sealing ratings, but that is one way to improve the efficiency of your sealed product if you're looking for something like that. But I will mention, and I brought this up in the terminal backout discussion, when you're looking to seal the connector, I know I've seen this happen in different instances where they'll fill the back of a wire-to-wire housing with epoxy or glue to try to help with that sealing. That can cause some issues, so just be careful what you're doing. We don't want to glue the terminals in place. That'll take away some of that terminal float that's good for the connectivity, and it could cause some damage to the actual terminals inside the housing. So again, when looking for sealing solutions, make sure you talk to your TE representative.
Let's talk for a minute about base materials. So, what goes into making up a seal, and how does that affect the performance or the design of the seal?
Well, and again, we'll have to go back to the IP rating. It really depends on what we're looking for. Usually in those lower ratings, so we're looking at some of the lower numbers in the scale. Foams, some of those lighter materials will be sufficient for those those lower ratings. So we're talking about maybe some urethane foams or your typical engineering grade of foams. And you'll see, sometimes they'll come in sheet form or a little attachments that you can just put over the top of your connector. As you get higher and higher in the sealing rating, you're getting more into like the silicone rubbers. So they're much higher performance. They are able to withstand much more pressure from ingress from water or dust. They're also much more, say, durable. They're going to last a lot longer. They're going to keep their flexibility for a longer time. So just like anything else, as you increase the number of requirements, you have to find materials that will also perform better and better in those environments. And that's where you'll see that shift. Again, it does increase in complexity and cost, but it also gives you that performance that you need for your application.
Well, that's been really good information, Josh. I appreciate it. Is there anything else you'd like our listeners to know about, as it relates to sealing in a connection system?
Well, I'll say this, especially as we're moving into a world with more and more electronics out there in the environment, sealing becomes more and more important. We do have multiple applications or multiple solutions for you. So, if you're looking for something or, really don't know where to start, feel free to reach out to one of our sales folks or visit us at te.com.
So thank you to our listeners for plugging in. Be sure to keep an eye on TE Connectivity and their product advancements across a wide range of applications and end markets. For more insights, visit Market and Technologies Resource Center at tti.com/technical resources. Until next time, I'm Scott Stemley, and this is Talking Excellence with TE and TTI.
That's it for this episode of Talking Excellence. Join us next time for the podcast that brings together the specialists of TTI with the connectivity experts from TE, an insightful conversation about getting connected.